The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development, with a magazine and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives. At The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co. Very humbled and very honored to have another guest speaker that has supported us in quite a few expos, who I've met personally a few times. And it was a great individual, a great humanitarian. And his name is Jeff Hoffman. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's the founder of Priceline.com, Bookings.com, Ubid.com, music and film producer, worldwide motivational speaker, chairman of the Global Entrepreneurship Network. But apart from that, he's an amazing humanitarian, amazing individual. So Jeff, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Bernardo. I'm always love being with you and your community.
No, thank you so much, Jeff. And I've got to say that beard looks really good on you.
I wonder where I got the idea, my friend.
Someone said to me, it makes you look really wise. I said, well, you know what? I wouldn't mind a little bit of black hair there if I could.
Yeah, somebody actually asked me if that part was colored. Someone said, how are you going to keep that? I said, it just nature makes that decision, but I'm glad it did.
Absolutely. Well, listen, you're going to be talking today about the power of entrepreneurship. Is that it?
Yes, sir. And let me ask you something. Are we going to have some interactive time at the end, you and I?
Yes, absolutely. You've got 55 minutes. How long do you need? I'll come 5-10 minutes before if you want, and we can.
Yeah. I'll say, but I would love us to be able to chat a little bit, whatever questions you have or ones that you take or whatever. I'd love some interaction at the end.
I love that. We'll ask some questions now, and I'll bring them with me.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Questions to you as I'm going. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for having me today. I am going to talk about the power of entrepreneurship. And I think probably where we need to start is the definition of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, it's an interesting word. I would call myself a lifelong serial entrepreneur, except that I never actually used that word once. When people asked me what I did for a living, I never said entrepreneur. In fact, I have to say later, the first time I did say I'm an entrepreneur to people, somebody winked and said, oh, you're a hustler, huh? And I said, what do you mean I'm a hustler? You're making it sound like I'm doing something illegal. And I said, I'm definitely hustling, but this is what I do. And they said, oh, we get it. Kind of winked again and said, you got fired. You lost your job. I said, I didn't lose my job. This is what I'm choosing to do. And they said, oh, we get it. You just can't find a job. I said, no, this is my job. Entrepreneurship is what I do. I do this on purpose. I chose it. It didn't used to be really a thing. Now it's a sexy term. Now it's cool. Everybody wants to be in entrepreneurship, and there's TV shows about it. So it really made me think about what is this entrepreneurship thing? Because here's the problem I get now. I have people that call me and say, hey, Jeff, I want to talk to you. I'm an entrepreneur now. And I say, what does that mean? And they say, well, I got an office. I have business cards. I got a website, a URL. I'm an entrepreneur. And I say, you have everything but a sort of reason for doing this, an idea. Because entrepreneurship is, in fact, not a job. Even though it is a career path, the simple truth is that entrepreneurship is a mindset. It's an attitude. It's not a job per se. What I don't want people to do is say, I want to be an entrepreneur. What I want people to do is say, I see something in the world that I could make better, a problem that I could solve. Because, again, my whole life, if somebody had said to me, what is it you do? I would have simply said, I'm a problem solver. If I could have afforded business cards back then, they would have said, Jeff Hoffman, problem solver, because that's all I ever wanted to do was fix things and make them better. That is what real entrepreneurs do. And the focus, the way you can tell a real entrepreneur. Now, I'll give you an example looking back about entrepreneurship. I didn't know this then, but if there is a problem in the world, the thing that you're working on, your product, your solution, that you can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't do anything but think about that problem. That is what entrepreneurship is supposed to feel like. Not people that are looking at cars online that they're planning to buy someday when they sell the company that they haven't even launched yet. I'll give you my example. When I was building my very first product, I started designing the very first product. And for those of you who I haven't met or haven't spoken to before, probably that first real product was when you go to an airport, most anywhere in the world, and you check yourself in at a kiosk. There's check-in kiosks in the airport. That was the first idea that I had. That was the first problem that I saw. But when I was building that company, we were heads down designing kiosks and spending all day. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and I'd think, man, it's only 3 a.m. And then I'd laugh and think, but I'm just going to lay here and think about the kiosk all day anyway, so I might as well just get up and start working at 3 a.m. So I'm working away one day, and I'm talking now about the attitude and mindset of entrepreneurship and problem solving. Everything should be about the problem that you're trying to solve. So here's the extreme for me. So I'm at work one day, I'm working on the kiosk design, and a friend of mine comes in and he goes, "Hey, Jeff, I told a friend of mine what you were building. He thought it was really cool. And he'd like to give you some money, an investment." I said, "That's great, man. I'm really busy now working on a design right now. Could you just go take his money? It's fine. I will need some money to build these." And he said, "You know what, Jeff? I'd love to take his money, but I can't." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "Dude, you don't even have a bank account." And I was like, "Oh my God, I do not have time for things like bank accounts. I just want to build these kiosks, and I dream of seeing them at airports and people checking in there." And he said, "Okay, what do you want me to do?" I said, "Go get a bank account then so you can take the money, but leave me alone. I'm working on this problem." And then he said, "That'd be great, but I can't get you a bank account." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "Jeff, you don't even have a company set up." I said, "Fine, you go set up a company, you set up bank accounts, you can take the money. I just want to solve this problem of lines in the airports by finishing these kiosks." You should be solely focused. Now, of course, you have to build an infrastructure around you in a company. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that looking back, I realized that all I thought about all day was the problem I was trying to solve. That's what entrepreneurship is supposed to look like. That's what it is supposed to feel like. Along those, to that point, that being said, I do want to say that so many people in the world, what I see all the time is people that have a solution that's looking for a problem. What I mean by that is you create this. You create an idea, whatever it is. And I see, and people say, "Here's the thing that we're building I'm an entrepreneur. I'm building a product. I launched a startup. Here's my idea." And I always say, "Okay, that's great. Who is it out there that's dying to have one of those, to buy that from you?" And entrepreneurs always say to me, "Well, we'll see. As soon as we build them, we're going to start selling them, and hopefully people want to buy them." That is one way to do it. Create something you think is cool and hope that the world wants to buy it. But here's what I've noticed in kind of a lifelong study of the world's most successful entrepreneurs. They are solving a problem they were standing in. Most of the time, I'll explain and give an example. Most of the time in the world, when you see a problem, you know what you do? You complain like everybody else. And then what do? You go back to your life, to your desk, to your job. When I was standing that day in the airport and the line was 1 hour long to check in, and all the check-in process was showing your ID, and a gate agent the ticketing agent hits print on a printer and prints you a boarding card. A boarding card is just a piece of paper. And I missed the flight because it took an hour to check in at the counter back then. And again, all the check-in was someone printing a piece of paper, which was a boarding card for me. And I remember thinking, this is ridiculous. I missed my flight standing in line for an hour so some person that works for the airline could hit print on a printer. There's got to be a better way. Everybody in line was complaining. But you know what all of us did every Friday? We all complained, and then we just went back to what we were doing, back to our job and our life. True entrepreneurs, and for those of you who want to be one or who want to launch a startup, its odds of success are much higher. Next time you find yourself standing in a problem and complaining about that problem, here's what entrepreneurs do that everybody else doesn't. Entrepreneurs stop and they say, "Wait a minute, is this problem bothering a lot of people? Is this a big problem?" When I was standing there that day in the airport after I missed my flight, I had nowhere to go. I was basically unemployed and broke pretty much at that point. And I started asking people in the airport. I said, "Am I the only one that thinks it's insane that we stand in line for an hour so someone can print us a piece of paper?" Everybody in the airport was groaning and complaining. So step one is stop for a minute. I remember that in marketing classes or in entrepreneurship classes, I never took those, but they teach market research. And the truth is, you just need to do groaning research. If everybody's complaining about a problem, you're probably onto something there. So when everyone in the airport said, this is ridiculous, then entrepreneurs do a second thing. One, find out if it's a big problem. Two, that's not rocket science, folks. Two, the next thing you need to do is see if there's a value equation. A value equation is simply this. Will a lot of people in the world pay you more for the thing you are doing than it costs you to do it? And if the answer, by the way, if the answer is no, then congratulations, you have a hobby. Okay. A hobby is a thing that you're spending your money on that other people aren't paying you for. A business is a thing that everybody's dying to pay you for. So what happened was I'm in the airport there and I'm asking people just out of curiosity. I said, would anybody here give me $5 if you could skip this line right now and I could just hand you your boarding pass? People started bidding $5, $10, $15. Some guy in a suit in the back said, I'll give you $25 right now. Get me out of this line and give me a boarding card. I knew right then I had a value equation. This is a business. Then entrepreneurs do the third thing that everyone else doesn't. They own it. They say to their friends, you guys go home. I'm not leaving here until this one is fixed. At that moment, I said, I know what I want to do. I want to fix this problem. So entrepreneurship is the attitude of fixing a problem, then finding another. And the world's most successful entrepreneurs are the ones that fix the problem everybody else was complaining about. So what I want you to do is next time you hear yourself complaining about a problem, stop and do those three things. First, find out if it affects a lot of people. Second, find out if it's just a cool idea or an actual business because people will pay you for it. And third, own it. And let me give you one last test before I move on. To know if you're owning a problem that really is a good business and if it's going to work. And I need you guys to be really honest with yourselves on this one, on what I'm about to talk about next. Most of us spend our time building a product, whether we're entrepreneurs, small business owners. Obviously, this applies to big companies too, but we're here to talk about entrepreneurs. You spend your time building a product. And then here's what you do. You price your product, you put it in the world, and you convince people. Well, I'm going to say this. You beg people to buy it. Begging people to buy something is technically called marketing, but it's really just begging you to buy my product because I spent a lot of money making it and I need you to buy it. That's the normal way for most people, statistically. But here's another thing, and this is the truth, the gut check truth test I want you to do. Are you trying to convince people? Are you begging people to buy your product? Or are people calling you and saying, where is the product already? Please take my money. You know what happened when I showed my kiosks a little bit? Airlines were calling and saying, can you please take my money? Where's the kiosk? I said, please, it's not finished yet. Stop calling. People were calling every day saying, please take my money. So I want you to be honest with yourself. Are you building something that people are dying to pay you for and keep checking to see if they can pay you yet? Or are you building something that you are going to have to convince people via marketing and beg them to buy? If it's the latter, there might be a better product out there for you. If it's the former, if people are calling you and saying, are you finished yet? Can I buy one now? Then you're on to something. So just be honest with yourself and think about the product you're building and see where it falls in that spectrum of problem solving. So that's kind of how I wanted to lay the framework for this today about what the definition of entrepreneurship is. This problem solving and ownership mindset. I got this one. I'm going to fix it because it's ridiculous that it's like that now. And I know people would pay me if I could make it better for them. Then you're in business. I mentioned, though, self-determination as part of this. The beauty of being an entrepreneur is entrepreneurship's not about business per se. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Obviously, it's about running a business. What I'm talking about is for you as an entrepreneur or as a person wherever you are in your life or in your career. If you're considering being an entrepreneur or if you're considering continuing as an entrepreneur when times are tough, that's what I'm talking about. What I mean by that is entrepreneurship is not about the business and it's not about the money. It's about self-determination, as I mentioned before. In fact, I wish I could redefine it Because what happens now when I travel around the world and especially work with young people, and I say to them, who wants to be an entrepreneur? And not a lot of hands go up. And when I say to them, why are you not interested? Just curious. They say, oh, Mr. Hoffman, I don't know how to build apps. And I have to say, who said entrepreneurship was about apps? And they say, well, I don't know how to build a website. I said, who said this had anything to do with websites? People have a bad impression that entrepreneurship is people trying to get rich on tech. And while that is clearly part of it, that's not the driver. The driver should be self-determination. Self-determination is the process of envisioning the future you want for yourself and the world around you, and then designing it. Why would you wait to see what the future brings when you can be one of the people that creates the future? Why don't you simply design the future? And I'm going to give you an example from my own career just to make it clearer.
If you're interested in finding your true purpose, if you're interested in finding your legacy, if you're interested in growing, if you are sick and tired of reading books that don't help you, haven't helped you, or are not helping you, or attending courses and seminars that haven't really had an impact in your life, I invite you to read my book, The Question, Find Your True Purpose, out now. For more information, go to www.thequestion.co. If you're interested in working with me, contributing, speaking at any of our many events, partnering, or licensing The Best You, for more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.
But self-determination, the opportunity, I don't think of entrepreneurship as a job. I think of it as a privilege. The privilege of being able to design your own future and to design a better future for people around you and in the world. That privilege is what entrepreneurship is all about. So I will give you my example of how you invoke this sort of self-determination approach. I grew up out in the Arizona desert with a single mom. She had 4 kids. We didn't have money or anything. We didn't really ever go anywhere. But I had these big dreams. And my big dreams were to see the world. And I'll tell you guys, I know a lot of you have heard this before, who've heard me speak. But when I was in like 6th or 7th grade, we had to pick a book to do a book report on. And the book that I picked was a book by Mark Twain, the famous American author. And in the front of the book, Mark Twain said, travel, I'm paraphrasing. Mark Twain said, travel is the fatal enemy of prejudice. And I remember sitting up all night because I was 100% sure that Mark Twain was talking to me, okay, that he wrote that in only my book and not in any other copy because he wanted me to read that. And I started thinking about what that meant. And to me, it meant the following, that for me to ever become the man I wanted to be someday, the human being I want to be, the way I want to show up on the planet, I needed to go see the world. And I needed to go see the world because we lived in a world where people judge people they've never met. We live in a world that has way too much hate and intolerance, and it makes no sense. I'll just give you a random example. I have literally overheard people here in the U.S. Saying hateful things about Muslims when they don't know one single Muslim person or Muslim. How are you judging anybody or other racial or ethnic inequalities, prejudices, etc.? So I was thinking to myself, I know what I want my life to look like. And I wrote this down back then. I want to visit 50 countries before I die. And by the way, guys, I had this secret little plan. I want to break bread in the homes of families in 50 different countries and cultures so that sitting at their house with their family, their kids, eating dinner and seeing how they live their lives, maybe then would be the first time I could ever make a comment about a person who didn't look like me, is once I've broken bread with them in their home. So here's my goal. I need to visit 50 countries before I die. But guess what? When I told my friends that, everybody laughed at me. And they said, Jeff, there's no job where someone is going to hire you and pay you to fly around the world to have dinner with people and visit countries. And at this moment, you have 2 choices. Here's the self-determination. You can give up your dream and you can say, you're right. Time for me to, this is my friends kept telling me, dude, it's time to grow up. And I kept thinking, are you telling me to grow up or are you telling me to give up? Because I don't want to give up on my dream of becoming a better person by dining with 50 families in 50 different cultures before I die. I don't want to give that up. But they kept saying growing up means having a job where you can pay your bills. And my question to you about your own self-determination is, why can't you do both? And I refuse to accept the fact that this growing up means having a job and a career where you're making a salary, paying your bills, and kind of vaguely remembering the crazy dreams you had as a kid, like visiting 50 countries to eat dinner with people. And my premise for entrepreneurship is, instead of accepting what everybody else believes, that your job and the dream life, the things you wanted to do with your life, are mutually exclusive. You know what most of us think? That our dreams, our passions, are things we'll do on the weekend if there's any time and any money left over after a work week, right? Or when you retire. When I'm way too old to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, that's when I'll finally take time off. Really, that's just ridiculous. But everybody accepts this premise that a job is a responsible grown-up thing that you have to have, or a career, and dreams are things you might get lucky enough to do. The beauty of entrepreneurship is we simply design the future we wish we had. So you can already see now, back to the story I was telling you about my first company. Instead of accepting that premise, what did I do instead? Instead, what I did was I simply designed my own future. I thought, everybody is laughing at me and telling me, there's no job, Jeff, where people are going to pay you to fly around the world. And what I said was, you're right, so I am going to create one. So I sat down and said, on the left are my dreams, passions, things I want to do with my life, my version of the future I wish I could live. And on the right are my grown-up responsibilities. And entrepreneurship is this like needle and thread that lets you stitch those things together. So I said, what if, just what if, I could design a future that included both those things? So what I did was, my first company, what I was telling you about earlier, was a travel company. What if my job was to fly around the world to deliver my product? So the product I told you before, the first call I ever got was KLM Royal Dutch Airlines in Amsterdam saying, hey, those kiosks that you were talking about, we love to try one of those in Schiphol, in the airport in Amsterdam, any way you could come to the Netherlands. That was country number 3 on my list of the 50 countries I was going to see. I got to go there to deliver a product. The next call I got, if I recall, was Lufthansa, a German airlines. Could you come over to Germany because we'd like to see your product? So you know what happened? I designed a future. I created a job doing what I wanted to do. And I wound up, my goal of visiting 50 countries before I die to break bread with families, I have now visited and been able to achieve that goal of dining in people's homes in 97 different countries. But the crazy part is I get paid to do that. That was actually my career. We were blessed enough that our companies were successful because we built products like the kiosks that solved real problems that people were willing to pay for. So I got to be a grown-up, pay my bills. Not a money-driven person, but we made millions of dollars doing this while I was living my dream of flying around the planet. Entrepreneurship is self-determination. The skill set and mindset of entrepreneurship is what enables you to design your future. Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about how you design a better future for the world around you, not just for yourself. But I want to sort of end by telling you this. Your job should be your career. But let's just say your job. Your job should be the vehicle that takes you to the life you want to live, not the obstacle that prevents you from living it. Because that's what most of us are accepting. Wish could have done that, but I got to run this business here. So that being said, again, I'll just repeat it one more time. Your job is the vehicle that takes you to the life you want to live, not the obstacle that prevents you from living it. How do you get there? And I mentioned again, solving real problems. But I do want to say, and again, I apologize for people who've heard me speak before and said this. One really important lesson that I learned, which is this: don't chase money, chase excellence. Okay, money follows excellence. Don't focus on the money you need to fly around the world or the money you need to live your future. Focus on creating excellence in the world. If you go out in the world and create something amazing, you will never worry about money. The money just rings your doorbell because money hunts down excellence. Okay? So quit. People that are focused on trying to get rich through entrepreneurship or trying to make money get so distracted by the pursuit of money that they fail to do the only thing that's ever going to get you paid anyway, which is excellence. So I did want to share that with you guys. And one last thing about how to get there. Whatever future you dream of, Here's a really simple formula for how to get to that future. You need to become valuable to the people in the world that you want to be around. I wanted the world's airlines and airports to call me. So how do you become valuable to the people in the world that you want to be around, whatever your industry is, guys? If you want to be sitting on the runway in Fashion Week in New York and Paris sometime, then you better be valuable enough to the fashion industry that they call you and say, we want you here, whatever industry you choose. How do you become valuable to the people you want to be around in the world? I'll tell you how you do that. You do that by, imagine this, solving a problem that they haven't solved yet. So how do you do that? You study an industry. I later took a break from tech and started a music company because I love music and I wanted to be around the performing arts, but I'm a software engineer. So at that time, I did this exact formula. I said, I need to become valuable to the people that at the top of the music industry. The only way I'm going to do that is by solving some problem that they haven't solved that bothers them, that they need help with. The only way you do that is by studying, staying up every night, all your free time, studying an industry, making a list of all the problems the industry has, cold emailing everybody you can if you don't have connections to learn more until you find a problem that you believe you can solve that they need a solution to. When you reach out to people with the solution to a problem they have, not a request for something you want, but an offer to give them something they want, suddenly the people you wish you wanted to be around want you around them. That is how we got into the music biz. When I started the music company, we began solving specific business problems in the concert and tour industry and wound up on tour, on concerts, doing shows with everybody from Elton John to Britney Spears, et cetera, et cetera. And we wound up even being blessed enough to find ourselves standing on the red carpet at the Grammys and winning a Grammy. And I just remember a moment that I've shared with some of you that when the paparazzi were all yelling when we won the Grammy, saying, Jeff, how do you feel right now? And I remember smiling and saying on the red carpet, having just won a Grammy, and saying, this is the dream of software engineers everywhere. And everyone on the red carpet's like, what is that guy talking about? And I just shook my head and said, never mind. Because I was thinking that entrepreneurship is about designing a future and creating that future by being valuable because you solved a problem nobody else could solve. And you did that by studying the industry until you found one you could solve. So now let's move into the way more important part of what I wanted to talk about, which is entrepreneurship as a vehicle for change. And what I mean by that is everything I just told you, but the ability to do this for other people. Once I realized, and I can take you to a really specific moment in my life there. At this moment, when it was on the red carpet, after we just won a Grammy for the jazz album we produced for the best jazz album that year, and I was standing there thinking, I cannot believe I'm standing in Hollywood on the Grammy red carpet. We just won. How is this my life? How could I possibly ever have been this blessed? Because I certainly don't deserve it. And I remember thinking to myself that the way I feel now, it was like this total high. I was floating. My feet weren't touching the ground. Right? I'm a software engineer from a single mom and a family from the desert. There's no way I ever wound up here, but somehow I did. And I remember thinking, I can't believe that I am blessed enough that this is my life. And then I had a life-changing thought. I thought to myself, I know what I want to do with the rest of my life. And it's this: every human being deserves their own red carpet moment. And that has nothing to do with red carpets, music, Grammys, or business. It has to do with, I wish every one of you listening has at least one moment in your life where you got to feel like I did, where you look around you and say, I can't believe I am blessed enough that this is actually my life, that my life is actually at this moment right now. And I thought, I know what to do now. I need to figure out how to give everybody as many people as I can, their red carpet moment. I want everybody to get to a point where they can't believe they were blessed enough that this is their life, that they're living right now. And I thought, how do you do that? And I knew right away, you do it the same way I did. You go out and teach entrepreneurship. You teach the attitude and the skill set of problem solving to as many people as you can in the world so they can go create their future They can go create their red carpet moment. They can go design the life they really wish they lived instead of the life that they are living. So that's when I sort of set out and said, the skill set and attitude of entrepreneurship, I want to go teach that and share it. And I'm here today, especially when Bernardo asked me to talk about this topic, because I want to encourage, but more importantly, honestly, I want to challenge all of you to share the gifts of everything you've learned. You don't need to know everything. Whatever you do know will help somebody get to their red carpet moment, will get to their life that they wish they would live. And so at that moment, this is the true power of entrepreneurship. At that moment, I had another internet company post Priceline and Booking.com. By the way, Priceline was, I think they said at the beginning that I was the founder. Priceline was founded by a gentleman named Jay Walker. It was his idea, his intellectual property. But that was one of the companies that I was part of building. I just wanted to clarify that Jay is the one that actually came up with the idea for founding that company. But I had another company of mine later called YouBid.com that became the 5th largest auction site in the world. That at one point was also a public company with a multi-billion-dollar market cap. I was a CEO of a public company at the time when I decided that sharing the tool set of self-determination, teaching people how to be entrepreneurs in as many places as I could, was where I wanted to spend the rest of my life, the second half of my life. And I left the CEO business, left the public company business, et cetera, et cetera. And I took some time off then. And I basically, the next year, which was 2012, I did, in effect, I did a year of yes. And I didn't really share this with anybody. I said, for the next year, I am going to give back by saying yes. I told no one this. I'm going to say yes to everybody that asked me for help for an entire year. Help with building a better life. Help with taking an idea and turning it into a business. Help with seeing a problem in their community and fixing it to make other people's lives better. For a year, I'll just say yes to anyone that asks for help. So my year of yes, I won't make money this year. I won't do business deals. I won't even be in my office. I'll just go wherever somebody calls me next. Well, that 1 year of yes turned into 5, pretty much 6 years. I did 6 years in my 12-month commitment because it's the most amazing thing that I've ever done with my life, which is teaching people how to help themselves. Entrepreneurs, passionate, innovative. In fact, one of the first people I met was a 19-year-old young man in a village in West Africa, in Senegal, who said, "Dear Mr. Hoffman," he wrote me an email, said, "Dear him," I have a TED talk out there on the power of childlike wonder, and he watched it, and he emailed me through the TED site, and he said, "Dear Mr. Hoffman, I know you'll never get this, you'll never read this email, and if you do, I know you'll never respond." And I was like, "Oh, it's on now." Okay. So I responded, and he said, "In the village, no one has a home and no one has a job where I live in West Africa. And I have a dream of this problem I could solve that people would pay us for, that I could use the money to employ everybody in my village. And then I could use the profits to build them all homes to live in." And I was like, I'm all over this one. And so I began working with that entrepreneur to teach him the skill set that many, many, many of you listening right now have, the skill set of creating a business and launching it and making it profitable. That's that tool set of entrepreneurship. And today he has a company in West Africa that does business in 7 West African countries. He has 350 employees, and he builds them homes for the people that work for him. That's the power of entrepreneurship. That's why Bernardo and I picked this topic. That is the ripple effect of what happens when you share your knowledge, your skills with even one person, right? And a lot of times people look around and they say, well, there's so many problems in the world. Well, first of all, that's good news for entrepreneurs, because if there's a lot of problems still existing in the world, then there's a lot of things for you to go fix and create businesses around solving those problems. But sometimes people think it looks too big. As an entrepreneur, I can only fix one thing at a time. There's a Mother Teresa quote that always inspired me. She said, if you can't feed 100 people, then just feed one. And that's what I'm telling you today. She was right. Fix something somewhere where you live. Find some problem that you see that everyone's complaining about and fix that one. And so that's what this young man, Mustafa is his name, in West Africa taught me, that if we teach somebody this skill set, then they go out, that ripple effect, as he impacted 350 families and lives out there. by creating opportunities and better futures for them. So I'll share with you 2 ways that we do that now. Then I'll close with some real examples of what these entrepreneurs do. I am part of 2 different organizations now that I spend my time on that do this. One is a US-based, Washington, D.C.-based nonprofit called the Global Entrepreneurship Network, GEN. I am the chairman of the Global Entrepreneurship Network. We made a commitment, and it's a pretty simple mission statement. Let's help anybody, anywhere that wants to launch a business to make things better around them be able to do so. At GEN, we focus on building the ecosystem for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs can't do it alone. And if you're an entrepreneur out there and you know the lonely struggle of being an entrepreneur, stop trying to do it alone. Reach out to people in Bernardo's and the Best You community. There's so many amazing people in this community. Right now on the screen, you should see genglobal.org. That is the website for our organization. That's the URL. We are on the ground now in 180 countries, I am proud to say. We try to inspire and educate entrepreneurs by creating entrepreneurial ecosystems, everything entrepreneurs need around them. At GEN, we work with governments. We have a ministerial arm where I've been blessed enough to meet with presidents of countries, prime ministers, kings and queens even. We work with governments to create an environment that makes it easy for entrepreneurs to start businesses and easier for them to fail, because that's part of the process where they live. And we host things like Global Entrepreneurship Week. For those of you who don't know what GEW is, our organization asks people all over the world the 3rd week of November every year to celebrate and inspire more entrepreneurs by holding entrepreneurship events of any kind. Do something to promote entrepreneurship where you live, all across the US and all over the world. I think this year, if I got the numbers right, roughly, we had about 175 countries hold a total of 40,000 events during that week, in which 10 million people attended. It's all about impact. Let's create. I fundamentally believe that if you want to make the world a better place, you need to unleash armies of entrepreneurs. That's what we're trying to do at GEN. I want to share with you another organization that I'm the founding board member of and a longtime mentor and teacher at, which is called the Unreasonable Group. And that's also what the website is. Maybe you guys can put that up as well. But the Unreasonable Group is a similar organization like GEN, but it's focused entirely on social entrepreneurship. We created Unreasonable. It's based out of Boulder, Colorado, but like GEN, does business all over the world, under the fundamental belief that entrepreneurs are the people most likely to solve the world's biggest problems. Why? Because entrepreneurs are agile, right? They move quickly. They're lean. They're lean typically because they're broke. They can't do things the expensive way. They have to innovate because they don't have the funding to do it the way a big company or government would. So they're agile, efficient, and innovative because they're trying to survive. So what we do there, and now you should be able to see unreasonablegroup.com on the screen if you want to check that out. At Unreasonable, we find entrepreneurs solving the world's biggest problems, very much aligned with the United Nations 17 SDGs. And we help them by providing everything from mentorship to access to funding to everything you would wrap around a startup to make sure that the world's most important startup solving the world's biggest problems succeed. And I'm also proud to announce the level of impact we've had there as well. In the end, I say this all the time, it used to be on my door as a CEO, ideas are welcome, but execution is worshipped. Everybody talks. But for me as an engineer and kind of a simple person, I don't really want to hear what you're talking about. I want to see what you're doing. Go build it. So that's why I'm particularly proud that while a lot of people talked about making change and impact, the amazing team at GEN and Unreasonable have done that. So like I did with GEN, I'll give you Unreasonable's impact. We have more than 200 companies, startups, amazing entrepreneurs in the portfolio. They're doing business in about 187 countries. They've generated in real revenue, because they're solving real problems that people consider valuable, about $3.6 billion in revenues. I believe we've created over 120,000 new jobs. And here are my two favorite numbers. Collectively, our startups have raised over $4.3 billion in funding. We're getting money in the hands of the entrepreneurs who are making the world better by solving the world's biggest problems. And I'm going to give you a couple examples to sort of close out my talk today. And even more, I'm even more proud of this result. We have positively impacted over 350 million lives and families around the world with social entrepreneurship that made lives better for people that literally couldn't help themselves. Some examples of the power of entrepreneurship, of what entrepreneurship can do when you develop this skill set of solving a problem by creating a business around the problem solution and delivering something that the world finds valuable by studying an environment and finding problems that need fixing, everything I talked about today, while meanwhile living your most amazing life because you're doing this in an industry or a space that you wanted to be in anyway. Give you some crazy examples. There is one we did. Jen, we recently held the Entrepreneurship World Cup. We decided to have like probably the world's biggest pitch competition, like a giant global Shark Tank. We had 175,000 entrepreneurs from 200 countries enter. We did elimination rounds for this pitch competition in more than 100 countries. And we wound up giving away millions of dollars in prizes. The funding's important because these brilliant innovators need some cash many times to build their product. The winner was a young Asian woman that found a way to create milk without having to have dairy cows or refrigeration. Think about that. This is an entrepreneur's solution, especially when you look at babies and children and how important milk is in early diet. Many parts of the world, people don't have access to cows, to dairy, and they don't have refrigeration. She found a way to create milk from cells to provide milk around the world. She was our winner. There's another startup we work with at Unreasonable that has found a way to create meat from stem cells. So we're basically creating hamburgers and steaks without ever giving birth to a cow, raising it and killing it. That is amazing stuff. There is a set of entrepreneurs we work with that has created an army of drones that can plant like 1 million trees a day using only drones. That's why they can plant so many more trees than humans. The drones literally find a place, they drop the saplings in, they provide the nutrients. There's another one that I've been working with recently that has an army of robots that are swimming around under the ocean and can repair coral reefs. They're repairing damaged reefs and they're robots. Imagine how many, probably, I can't remember what is 100 times faster than a human can do it. There's another entrepreneur that they've created solar-powered oil-eating robots that swim around the ocean, eating oil out of the ocean, and they're solar-powered, so they never stop. There's one that has created a device that provides drinking water from thin air. It literally, in effect, sucks the humidity out of the air wherever you live and gives you a bottle of drinking water for people who have no access to clean water. These are amazing examples of the power of entrepreneurship, of the power of people who envision a better future to go out there and create that better future. And I would love to be able to bring Bernardo back on so maybe we can take a few questions. But I will say the other thing that went across the screen at the bottom, I remember thinking one day, I can literally tell you, I had a chance one day where we spent the day with the Dalai Lama, of all people. And one of the questions I asked was about advice for trying to change the world and make things better. And I remember the Dalai Lama saying that you would think that if you want to make the world a better place, you need to talk to the people that run it. That seems logical. I want to make the world a better place. I got to talk to the people that run the world. But he said, that's not really the answer. They're all probably too old and too fixed in their ways to change. He said, Jeff, if you want to do something really useful, he said, spend your time preparing the entire next generation to do everything better than we did. So I'm being honest with you guys that I spend a lot of time working with children all over the US and all over the world and teaching them, first of all, the attitude of solving problems and not complaining. We don't need a generation of youth that complain about the world. We need a generation of youth that fix it. The generation of youth needs to be equipped with an attitude and a tool set of change.
If you're interested in watching the video content of this interview and many others,
or interested in learning from world leaders and teachers, go to www.thebestyou.online.
People have asked me before, how do I help you help the kids you help around the world? And the answer is, if you do want to help, you are more than welcome. We don't actively go out and solicit it. We go do this ourselves, but you are more than welcome to help children by making a donation at what that you see at the bottom of the screen to worldyouthhorizons.com. In any case, we do things like taking kids out of the environments they live in and exposing them to the rest of the world, because a child that has never seen anything but a repeated cycle of drugs and violence doesn't know there's another choice. A child that has never seen anything but a repeated cycle of poverty and hopelessness doesn't know there's another choice. So a lot of the work we do is preparing them to be entrepreneurs without really using that word. We show them that there's another world out there, and we show them that they can create their own future by inspiring and educating them. So I want to thank everybody, especially Bernardo and the team at BestU, for allowing me some time to talk to everybody today. I really value what you guys do. I love being part of your community. And for everybody that took the time to listen to my rambling, thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Jeff, thank you. Thank you so much. You're so inspiring. We should run the Jeff Hoffman Expo, because it's just, I mean, seriously, the amount of inspiration that you've given us there. I mean, we've got loads of questions coming in the chat, which I'm gonna ask you a few. I do have a few myself, but congratulations. I mean, you just every time you speak, you're doing so many more things and involved in so many great things.
Well, I say the same to you, which is why I always answer when you're the one calling me to come help. By the way, I wanted to add something I forgot, Bernardo, because we're doing Miami, and you mentioned at the before the break that you were focusing more heavily on the Latin American community. One thing I forgot to mention was that we have launched through Jen and our partners, a small business organization called Hello Alice. We noticed that, especially in the Latino world, in the U.S., small businesses, and we're planning to take this global, small businesses are not surviving the COVID pandemic. And they are, in the U.S., for example, 91% of all Latino-owned businesses that applied for U.S. government funding did not get it. So we decided that we need entrepreneurs in every community. Every small business needs to survive. So we started our own grant program, and we started giving away cash, anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000, to save small businesses and entrepreneurs, first in America, and then we want to do this in South America. But especially, like I said, we focused on the Latino community because their numbers were the worst. And I will just say, speaking from Miami, my friend and business partner, he goes by a little nickname called Mr. 305, now Mr. Worldwide, but that's Pitbull. And some of you might have seen Pitbull and I on TV doing a public service, telling small business owners and entrepreneurs to come to us. It's COVID19businesscenter.com if anybody needs cash. But we are helping Latino-owned, Hispanic, and later globally small businesses to survive this time. And unfortunately, Pitbull couldn't join us today. I was going to have him come say hello, but he wasn't able to make it. But I wanted to mention that we salute you for stepping up your efforts to support Latin American entrepreneurs and businesses as well.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much. I mean, congratulations with all the great work. It's just mind-boggling. I mean, a lot of the things that you're obviously involved in with the global, the Gen Global and the Global Entrepreneur Network and Global, and what you've done and how you've encouraged entrepreneurs to come forward is just amazing. I mean, there's a couple of things that stood out to me when you were saying, and I wanted to ask you, and obviously one of them is become a problem solver. I think a lot of people, as you said, they just worry or focus too much on I want to change the world, I want to do everything. Well, start one step at a time, one thing at a time. Become a problem solver. That was great advice. I think a lot of people don't really see that angle, do they? They're trying to see things maybe too difficultly, maybe in a way that
I think you're right on. I am a huge proponent in the fact that simple wins. In fact, I teach these workshops called Explosive Growth, teaching people how do you take a small company, an entity, and hit that explosive growth where some businesses take off. And one of the things I focus on is I have a big screen that says win a gold medal at one thing. Just pick one thing and go crush it. Quit trying to do everything. Quit trying to solve all the problems. Quit trying to be everything to every customer. Pick the one thing you think you can really do best at and go do that first. You can take it from there. Here's just a really visible but simple example, because I had this conversation way at the beginning of the internet one day with Jeff Bezos before any of these companies were built. And Bezos said, I'm just going to figure out how to be the best darn bookseller on the planet. Then I'll figure the rest out. For years and years, he only sold books. So for the rest of you, go pick one problem and be the best darn something that you can be before you start trying to worry about everything around you. Make it simple. Simplicity wins.
And then also doing it alone, something that stood out to me as well. I've actually been emphasizing that throughout the whole pandemic. I think a lot of people don't ask for help. They're trying to do it alone. And there's so many people out there, coaches, mentors, people that have already, they've paved the path. I think people struggle to ask for help.
Absolutely. Again, part of why I support you and your community. First of all, you've done that yourself. Your team, Alexandra and the whole team, your team's been fantastic. Everybody we've worked with, your end, to do business with you guys. But a team, none of us can do it alone. And, when somebody once asked me, what do you think your key to success was? I said, the key to success for me was surrounding myself with people smarter than me and then just getting out of the way. So the day I realized I'll just go get people smarter than me and then I'll go get them coffee. That was the day I started becoming successful, when I started letting go and spending my time finding people. Instead of running the business all day, why don't you schedule some days where you tell people, nobody call me. I'm going to go out and hunt for people smarter than me. When I bring them back, they're going to start running parts of the business and I'm going to start stepping away. Believing that you need to be in charge of everything is basically an inefficiency. You're slowing your business down. You don't scale until you can let go, and you don't let go until you surround yourself with people smarter than you. I 100% agree with you. Stop trying to do it alone. Reach out and reach for help. And again, you guys at Best You create so much great content in all of your offerings that's why I'm always here as well, and hopefully to encourage more people to engage in your community, because you guys provide a lot of that help that people need.
Well, look, we were talking yesterday because, as you know, we're actually streaming live on TV. So we're on our channel, Roku, Apple, and Amazon. We're going to be on iOS. And obviously, all this content is there. And we're going to make, it's free. It's accessible to anyone and everyone from the comfort of their home. And the future for us is TV. Yesterday, we were brainstorming around the idea of how could we really incite and teach and inspire people, but reaching hundreds of millions, billions of people. And obviously that's the intention of television. And we were talking with some of the people that are there who specialize in financial independence. We were talking about coming up with ideas of shows. I mean, when you were talking about the Unreasonable Group, about, creating, water out of air, or, planting 1 million trees with drones, or you were talking about, creating milk. These are phenomenal ideas. And I love a lot of the documentaries, obviously, that Netflix create. But I was thinking is, as generous as you are with doing and giving people things, how cool would it be if we could find a way where we could say, hey, creating 1,000 millionaires in 365 days. And then we could just, film that, document that, where we literally teach them skills. You say, hey, look, we're giving you the money, but this is what you have to do with it. We're going to show you how to invest. We're going to teach you financial independence. We're going to teach you how to, to manage your credit. Those are the kind of things that I think is missing in TV in general. A lot of the stuff that you're doing, Jeff, is so, I hope you're filming it because it's so TV worthy.
We do. First of all, I love your idea. And for people listening that remember, because I said it's not about the money, but let's be really clear. Being profitable is important. And the reason why is because of scale. When people say to me, I don't care about the money, I just want to help people. I always say, do you want to help 10 people or 10 million? And they say, well, 10 million. I say, then we better make some money. Scale requires funding. So being profitable, there's no shame in life in making money. The shame in life is in not using it to help others. So we want to create, what is that thing? Doing good by doing well, right? Yep. So I agree with you. And you are correct that most TV content is a little focused more on the entertainment in many cases. If you think of Shark Tank, it's entertaining, but you have no idea what those people did with the money and how they built the company and if they built the company on things like Dragon's Den or Shark Tank or whatever. So content, the goal is not to make the entrepreneurs famous. The goal is to inspire someone sitting at home
Absolutely.
to say, man, if she can do that, what am I doing? I bet I could come up with a solution. So I really like the idea. And I agree with you that the media is a one-to-many way to inspire and educate a lot of people at a time. I think that's a really cool idea.
Well, I think I was looking, for example, at one of these series of Netflix, which, they were featuring the ideas around the avocado and how it's affecting water, and literally people don't have water because of the plantations, because they're privately owned. They were explaining how, these bottled water companies are literally digging water from the floor, bottling it, and then, polluting the planet and making billions of dollars. And we're buying into it. And then, they were talking about all sorts of things. And then I said, well, that's all great. And you know what? You've given me information which, if anything, has made me very concerned. I want to know, what is the solution? What can we do? How are we going to do it? Who wants to help? And that's where I think we can really, really inspire, as you said, the younger generation. And I know that they've seen this. The younger generation, luckily, have seen how much we've messed up the planet, what we've managed to do in less than half a century. So hopefully they've made a note and they said, you know what, these guys have really messed it up. So I love the idea of going and supporting and training the youth.
Bernardo, they really have. And that's one of these, sometime I was doing a TV thing recently, and I remember the woman, the host, she said, where do you get your energy from? She said that to me. And I said, other people's optimism, right? When I talk to young people, and I visit schools and literally even villages all over the world, but when I talk to young people that still believe that anything is possible and don't think the world's hopeless, they think that there's problems, but we could fix them if we work together. And these young people that don't even notice the color or gender of the person next to them, that's just somebody in their group that's working with them. When I see that, it gives me great energy and great hope for the future, that there are so many people like that. There's a whole young generation. One time, somebody said to me, why do you spend so much time with kids? Why do you like them so much? And I said, because kids are just adults that the world hasn't ruined yet. Unfortunately, sometimes we, the adults, lead them astray a little bit, but they don't start that way. Most kids believe in each other. They believe in unity and equality, and they believe that things are possible. So I just love spending time in that space where we can really give. In fact, I'd love to, by the way, I'll just say that I do have a website, jeffhoffman.com. I'd love to hear what other people are doing. I'm easy to find. My email's jeff@jeffhoffman.com, and that's the website. So love to hear of things other people are doing, working with youth around the world. But they still believe, and we got to enable them to do what they believe.
I love it. Well, we've actually agreed to do our first Best Youth Expo. We're doing it in June. It's a global one. It's all under 20-year-olds speaking and bringing inspiration. So that's our first one. We're doing a Women's Expo next year, which my team just heard this morning.
Fantastic.
So we're going to be doing an expo for women to create awareness around, putting women at the forefront, because God knows us men, we've also messed it up, and we need to give more leadership to, look at the countries managed by women. Hey, there's the example. So we're really looking, but I've got to say, Jeff, I would love to bottle in a kind of like a format where we could really teach, inspire, and help people, to watch content that not only is educational, but is inspirational, that really triggers people to say, you know what, as you said, if they can do it, I can do it.
That's exactly right.
That's where I think, that's where I see, and that's where I've always seen the idea of the Best You is to really encourage, people all around the world to take action, to lead, to learn, and to inspire from everyone that is inspirational, and then go and do it. Best You, a better world. That's the bottom line.
There you go. You and I have been having that conversation, and I look forward to continuing it into 2021. And again, thank you very much for giving me a chance to speak with the community today.
Thank you, Jeff. As always, very, very inspirational. I really appreciate you and your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. What an inspirational man, Mr. Jeff Hoffman. Well, you've got a lot of web pages there. Please make sure that you look at some of those amazing projects that he's been involved in, because it is absolutely phenomenal. And I've spoken to Jeff quite a few times over the years, and he keeps coming up with great inspirational things. So he's probably still hearing me now, but I will be calling him. We need to put this on television. We need to make sure that we showcase a lot of the things that he's doing, because it's absolutely inspiring. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.